Hey friends, we are back for another episode of Katherine's Quarters, and I am so excited to get to talk to you guys this week. Week 5 of the NFL was a fun one. We had a tough weekend for some kickers. We had a tough weekend for injuries, but we had some really great games. And Sunday night, Monday night, and Thursday night football continue not to disappoint us. But I definitely have to start with the news of Jon Gruden and what that means for the NFL. So let's get down to it. All right, so we're going to start with Jon Gruden, the former head coach now of the Las Vegas Raiders. So if you remember, we may have talked about this in a Katherine's Quarters from last season, but there was going to be this investigation into the Washington football team and Dan Snyder and all of the front office executives about the toxic work culture. Now, out of that investigation have surfaced these emails that Jon Gruden sent. So these emails surfaced on Friday, and there was a comment that he made about Demarius Smith, who is, I believe, general counsel for the National Football League Players Association, the NFLPA, and he basically used like a racist slur, if that's what we want to call it, in referring to Demarius's lips, saying that they were big, like Michelin tires or something stupid like that, like something that he made up in his head that he was trying to use in reference to Demarius Smith's lips. And he being Jon Gruden, came out and said that it was just something he used to refer to people that lie, right? I don't know if he's ever used lips like Michigan tires as a lie for anyone else, but it was a very common, rude, derogatory thing that people would say about black people, that they have big lips. Meanwhile, now everybody wants big lips, but you know, that's a different story for a different day. So there was a lot of commentary over the weekend like, ooh, what's gonna happen with Jon Gruden? Like, that's not an okay thing to say about anyone. A lot of people thought that he would be able to get past it. I don't really know that he should be able to get past like making such a racist comment, but there were other things that he said, and those all came to light on Monday Night Football. In the middle of Monday Night Football, he made misogynistic comments and was, against the NFL hiring women to be, referees in the game. He made homophobic comments. He called Roger Goodell, who is the commissioner of the NFL, if none of you are aware, he called him the F word. And said that, gay players shouldn't be allowed to play in the NFL or something stupid and ignorant like that. He also decided that it was okay to not be all for all of the safety regulations that the NFL was putting in place after finding out that, CTE was a real problem. There was just so much, right? Like it was just like an avalanche of information that came through these emails. And he also was like a part of exchanging nude photos of women. Like, he is just such a disgusting human being, and it's hard for me to talk about without scowling, because like, ew. Everybody was so in love with for years because he worked at ESPN and was always talking to college players and talking to front office folks for all of the clubs. It's just like, oh, what a gross human being. But also, the fact that you thought that no one would ever see these emails means that you were telling the truth in these emails, means that these are the things that you feel. And to be fair, you're allowed to feel any kind of way. You can feel however you want to feel, you can think however you want to think, but you cannot be a leader in a locker room or elsewhere with these kinds of thoughts and feelings, because you have too much power at that point to allow that to cloud your judgment on somebody's ability to do a job. So Jon Gruden resigns during Monday Night Football. The craziness of it all is that he still coached the game on Sunday. After knowing that he had sent this email about Demarius Smith, he still coached on Sunday. Now, this was all, again, it came out of an investigation into the Washington football team. It was an investigation into their toxic work environment. And now we've extracted these emails that Jon Gruden sent that you found during this investigation. And Jon Gruden is now the conversation of topic. Meanwhile, I have heard diddly squat about what this investigation really led to. Now, apparently, the Washington football team, their organization, has received their punishment, and whatever the case may be. But out of 600,000 emails or something like that, this is what has come out. To be very clear, I think that Jon Gruden should have lost his job like on Friday. I do. Because at the end of the day, everyone involved in making the decision about whether Jon Gruden keeps his job or whether they fire him or they suspend him or whatever already had an understanding of what was found in this investigation. They did. They had it either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And y'all still let him coach. And I get it. There's like a lot of how do you make that, week 5 decision 24 hours before the game. But y'all knew. And we still let him coach in this game. And then he had the audacity to come out after the game, after the Raiders got trounced, okay, by the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears, who have, yay for Justin Fields, but the Raiders were looking real good through the first 4 weeks of the season. And after the Raiders lost, Jon Gruden goes up for his press conference and he addresses it without addressing it. He says, I have apologized and I don't want to talk about this anymore. You don't want to talk about it anymore? Well, too bad for you. We all have to do things we don't want to do. And guess what? Right now, you have to talk about this. Because if it were just one email, guaranteed no one would be talking about it. I still think he should have lost his job, but we're talking about a span of 11 years. A span of 11 years where you were I think it was a span of 7 years, but this is 11 years later. Regardless, we're talking about a period of time that you did this in. It wasn't one email, it wasn't 2 emails, it wasn't one thing that you did one time. This was something that you consistently do. This is now a behavior that you exhibit often. So therefore, there's a problem, and we cannot have people like Jon Gruden as head coaches of teams, as someone that people are supposed to look up to and look to for advice and look to for help on how to strategize the game and all of that other stuff, when they have these feelings about people inside of them. Because to be very honest, anyone that's not white and 50 seems like who Jon Gruden was aiming his target at. He doesn't like nobody. Let's be clear. You cannot lead a group of people if you have disdain for some of them. You cannot say, I'm so sorry to the Raiders fans and to the Raiders players and to the Raiders coaches when you have said disparaging things about communities that they come from. Period, point blank, end of story. So no, I think Jon Gruden should have lost his job on Friday, but that's fine. Jon Gruden comes out, says he doesn't want to talk about it. Well, too bad, because we're going to be talking about this for at least a week. That's how much I give. That's how much credence I give to the NFL talking about anything of importance. Because we can vilify players for doing things that are terrible, and we talk about it every time we bring up their name. But everybody has gotten on TV for the last 2 days and wanted to say all these great things about how Jon Gruden was, so good at this and he was so good at that, and he might have been a mediocre head coach, but he was. I don't care about any of those things, because while we were all saying those things about him prior to this incident happening, he was doing all of these things while we were saying those good things about him, while we were thinking those good things about him, while we were thinking that he was a great color analyst. He was, meanwhile, in the back emailing whoever the hell he was emailing and, sending nude photos and, saying misogynistic and just like old world stuff that we're like the NFL is trying to get away from. But like as a society, we also we're still trying to work to get away from doing those things. So no, you gotta go. You have to be done. It was announced on Tuesday that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are gonna take his name out of like their Ring of Honor that they have. I mean, the things will just keep coming, to be honest. But what I'm really interested in is to see what else comes out of this investigation. I would love for all the rest of it to be public. It's the middle of October and now we're getting all of this information that they've had for what seems like months. So, I mean, I think that there's more to be said about other coaches, other executives, other people in positions of power within the NFL. And he wasn't just sending this stuff to like himself. He wasn't just saying these things to himself. It wasn't like these are like private diary notes that he was writing. No. He was saying these to other people he felt comfortable talking to. And when you feel comfortable talking to people, you say a lot of stuff. Now, I'd love to know what any of these people said back. I would love to know who else is in agreement, who else is laughing at the jokes, who else is, oh no, women shouldn't be a part of sports. Like, I'm very curious, because I'm sure that Jon Gruden is not the only one. I mean, we get these stories year after year after year of these executives and these powerful white men who have all of these disparaging things to say about all of the communities of people that don't look like them and don't act like them and don't believe the same things that they believe. They have all of these disparaging things to say. You've been caught, and I hope everyone else is taking heed, because this is a thing that's going to become more and more unacceptable, as it should, and more people will lose. It sucks to suck, but just don't be a terrible person. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about some football. Because week 5 of the NFL was just as fun as every other week in the NFL, because I love NFL season. The Cardinals are the only remaining undefeated team. They are now 5-0 after beating the 49ers 17-10. The Cardinals look good. I like what the Cardinals are, how the Cardinals are shaping up. They get the Browns, the Texans, and the Packers in the next coming weeks, and I think that I think the Browns game is kind of like a toss-up. The Browns look pretty good, and they can score a lot of points. I mean, they scored 42 in a loss yesterday, so but the Texans, that's definitely going to be a cakewalk for them. Sorry, not sorry. I think the Cardinals are a much better team all around than the Texans are. The Packers is just going to be difficult. It's just going to be a tall task. So I think that the Cardinals may go 6-2 by the end of week 8. The rest of the games on Sunday, I mean, I'm not going to talk about the Thursday night game. That was just a little bit frustrating. I feel bad for the Seahawks, because I really, they've just been on such a decline in the recent years, and then Russell Wilson is now hurt, so that's not great. He's out for 4 or 5 weeks, something to that end. You hate to see it. But we got a really fun Sunday night game. Really fun for everyone but Chiefs fans. But there was a lot happening in that game. I mean, there was a rain delay after halftime that lasted I think the end of the second quarter. Between the end of the second quarter and the start of the third quarter was an hour and a half. So the game went well past beyond my bedtime, but the game was so good. And Josh Allen and Dawson Knox and Emmanuel Sanders, they just looked great. And the Chiefs, I don't know what has happened to the Chiefs. I mean, it just seems like the task is too great at this point. They are at the bottom of the AFC West. They are at 2-3. They don't have a winning record. Tyreek Hill got hurt in the game, and he may be limping a little bit, might be limited in practice this week. Patrick Mahomes had just as many touchdowns as he did interceptions, and that's just, I think he might have 6 on the year already, and we are in week 5, and he had 6 all of last year. I mean, that's important, especially when the defense has looked the way they have looked. The defense for the Chiefs has looked abominable. I think I could play defense for the Chiefs at this point, and I'm 5'5" and I weigh 130 pounds. Because it's just, they looked so bad. And credit to the Bills, because the Bills are a great football team. I mean, Bills, to be very honest, I think the Bills, the Bucks, the Ravens, who else? The Chargers, who else even looks good, to be honest? There are teams that I talk about every week because they just put on a display of football that is just, it's how do you stop them, right? And obviously all of these teams have been beaten at one point or another, but they all just look really good. I mean, the Cowboys, I hate to say it, the Cowboys look good. They look like they are clicking on all cylinders. Tavon Diggs is killing it on defense. I think he has an interception in every game this season. And I mean, Dak Prescott looks amazing. These are all the teams that we're going to be talking about at the end of week 17. I don't see them falling off at any point. And that's natural to happen, but they've all looked so good on both sides of the ball that it's a little bit difficult to see how they may have a game here or there that doesn't go well. Specifically talking about the Chiefs, the Chiefs just look like they are not in it. And the Bills look like they are laser focused on one day in February. So now we have to talk about Monday Night Football, because Colts-Ravens was so much fun to watch. It was one of those games where if you fell asleep in the middle of it, you didn't get the meat of the game. And obviously Monday Night Football doesn't start until 8 p.m. And so when you have a game that doesn't get good until the fourth quarter, basically, and then you have overtime, it's we're well at midnight now and all of us want to go to sleep, but you can't because the game is so good. I mean, the Ravens started out terrible. They looked bad. Lamar Jackson was not making good decisions whatsoever. I don't know how he ended that game with 442 yards and 4 touchdowns. It was crazy. And I mean, here's the thing. Carson Wentz came out after, I think his injury was 2-3 weeks ago, something I talked about it on KQ, but Carson Wentz came out and probably played one of the better games of his, to be honest, career. I liked Carson Wentz, and everybody gives me crap for liking Carson Wentz with the Eagles, but I liked Carson Wentz, and I don't think that he's a bad quarterback. And he showed that on Monday Night Football. Like, he looked really good. The offense looked good. The defense was playing really well. I mean, to be able to hold the Ravens to, 9 points, given there were a few turnovers and a lot of drop passes by the Ravens receivers, but like, they really capitalized on it and they played a really good game. It was just in the fourth quarter, Lamar Jackson was like lights out. He was playing so well. And I don't even think it was until like 9 minutes into the fourth quarter. I feel like I looked at the clock and it was like the game score just felt like it was so out of hand. But Lamar Jackson brought that team back from a 19-point deficit, and it goes into overtime. And it was just, he drove them down the field in what felt like 2 minutes. Like, it literally felt like no time passed whatsoever. And they scored the touchdown and the game was over. And it was just insane to watch. I'm so glad that the narrative about Lamar Jackson has shifted mostly. Lamar Jackson, through the first 5 weeks of this season, in passing yards, is only behind like Tom Brady, who is elite at 44. You have Justin Herbert, who is, I love the Chargers at this point, and I think I've married myself to Justin Herbert in a way because I drafted him for my fantasy league, but I am like loving being able to see him play so well, because he was one of those guys that came out of the draft that people were kind of like, maybe he'll be good, maybe he'll be okay, who knows, he might be an average quarterback, and he just looks really good. So he's also, atop that passing list. And then Derek Carr, who, the Raiders, and then you have Matthew Stafford, who, if Lamar Jackson is only underneath those guys, I'm so happy that the narrative about him has changed, because it doesn't change his ability to be able to run the ball. It just means that he's more of a threat now because he can also throw the ball. So it's exciting to see that for him. The Colts gave them some opportunities too. Like, Blankenship was not having a great night. It's all about capitalizing on any mistake that the other team makes. Kicker misses are always gut-wrenching. The Lions, I think, lost another one to the Vikings on Sunday. A game-winning field goal situation where they lose like 19-17 or something like that, and it's just so unfortunate. Like, I would hate to be a kicker. It's like the one job that everybody feels like is so easy but would never want to have, because everything is on the line at that point, right? Like, points matter. So if you miss a point after a touchdown, it's like, will that come back to haunt me in the third quarter or the fourth quarter at the end of the game? If I miss a game-winning field goal, or a game-winning point after the touchdown, it's unreal, the amount of pressure. I would never want that job. At the end of the day, your job is to kick the ball, and you need to kick it through the uprights, and you need to be able to do it on automatic. And so when that happens for them, I always just, There were so many good games this past weekend. Week 6 is probably not as fun, but we'll talk about a Week 6 preview next. Week 6 of the NFL. I feel like, I'm so glad there's 17 games this season, but it just feels like it's going by very fast. I think this is the first time I haven't talked about a majority of the NFC's teams in the Week 5 recap. Thursday Night Football, we get Bucks-Eagles. Now, the Eagles won this past weekend. It was an ugly one, but they won, and I'm happy for them, and it brings me joy to have victory Mondays with the Eagles. We have the Bucks this week, and the Eagles didn't play especially well this past weekend. They still look a little uneasy to me. Like, Nick Sirianni still is not like my favorite head coach of all time. I don't know, it's just feeling a little wonky right now. So again, another what could potentially be a really good game. Thursday Night Football, that should be an exciting one. And then Sunday, we don't have a crazy amount of great games on Sunday, but at 1 o'clock, Chargers, Ravens. Any game the Ravens play at this point, I'm probably going to end up watching, unless they're playing like the Jets or something. I don't care about that game. The Ravens Chargers is going to be these two really great offenses going at it, and I feel like it's going to be a shootout, and I hope it's not. I don't need that kind of high blood pressure. I do want Justin Herbert to do well, because hello fantasy. I think both of these teams are super fun to watch because of their explosive plays, right? You have 70-yard bombs down the field, and that's going to be fun for fans to watch. So I think that that's going to be the best 1 o'clock game, to be very fair. I think Monday Night Football will be good as well. Bills, Titans. I don't think the Titans match up real well with the Bills. The Bills are just so good on both sides of the ball. They're just so good. I think the Titans have a good team. I'm just not entirely sold on the fact that they could beat the Bills. I still think it's going to be a great game though. Derrick Henry is not a human that you can bring down easily. So if they just feed the ball to Derrick Henry the whole game, they might be okay. But I definitely think Monday Night Football is going to be a good one. Sunday is going to be a little but it's football, so why are we going to be mad? All right, friends. So lastly, I want to talk about the upcoming NBA season. And you would think that I would want to talk about player moves or, you know, things happening within the organizations, how guys will look during preseason, like all of those things. No. We have to talk about this NBA vaccine mandate and the craziness that is coming out of it. To start off and be clear, the majority of the NBA players have now all gotten vaccinated. There are a select few who are anti-vaxxers who have made it very well known that they are anti-vaxxers. New York and a couple other cities have decided that to participate in activities, to go into concerts or to go into arenas or to go to certain events, you have to be vaccinated. You have to show a proof of vaccination card. I was just in New York this weekend, hanging out with my friends after a very long set of weeks for work. And we decided to go to like this Banksy exhibit, right? And it was super cool. But my friend did tell me, she said, make sure you bring your proof of vaccination because most places are requiring that now, requiring it that you be vaccinated to come into their establishment. I will say this once, and then I will continue on with what I have to say about the NBA and these players, more specifically Kyrie Irving. Everyone is able to choose what they would like to do. When it comes to being out in public and being in public venues and being with other people, you have to then not only think of yourself, but other people. Well, I didn't get the vaccine because I don't believe in it. That's perfectly fine. You don't believe in it in your own space, where the only person who can be affected by any harm is you or your family. The same way you have the ability to make the choice not to get the vaccine, businesses where thousands of people come, venues where hundreds of thousands of people come, also have the ability to choose whether they want people who are unvaccinated to be able to come into their space. You can make whatever choice you want to, Kyrie Irving. As a human being who lives in the United States, the land of the free, quote unquote, you are able to make your own choices. But your choices have consequences. In this specific situation, your choice to not be vaccinated has a consequence of you not being able to play all the games. Now, there are some arenas around the NBA that are allowing, you know, players who are not vaccinated to still come and play in their arenas, and that is their choice, once again. But there are some arenas that are like, no. And you know where the Brooklyn Nets play? In New York. You know what New York has mandated? Proof of vaccination. So you know what you need to do? Get a vaccination if you want to play there. So today it was said that Kyrie Irving cannot play until he gets vaccinated. And if it's really just his personal belief in not getting the vaccines, cool, stand on that. I have no issues with you standing on it. I just have issues with you now making the situation with the NBA about like taking away personal privilege. Get out of here. Get out of here. If you feel like your personal choice is being taken away, how do you think that the other people who also have personal choice feel if you've decided to not be vaccinated because you don't believe in them, but you still want to do everything that everyone else does? It's just exhausting to still be talking about the vaccine and this conspiracy theory that the vaccine is going to do all of these terrible things and it kills people and it's this and it's that. It's like, no. We had a virus that killed how many people across the globe? We're not going to talk about this vaccine was made too fast and they might be trying to like, you know, create a plot where in 10 years your eyeballs can't see and your legs fall off. Like, what are we even talking about? It's a little exhausting to talk about, which is why I'm going to stop here. And Kyrie, good riddance. I hope that people start to like pay attention to this for what it is. It's just another way to try and pretend like he is smarter than everybody else on the planet, and it's exhausting. All right, friends, that's it for this week's episode of Catherine's Quarters. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the subscribe button below and follow me on Twitter, because you know I will be talking about all the games, and we will be back next week with another episode to talk about all of this craziness that never ends. I mean, the John Gruden story is not going away. The Kyrie Irving story not going away. And again, we will have more football. So you know we'll have tons to discuss. Check you guys later.